Hello, this is Elijah from Elijah's IT Guide, and today I'll be telling you how to create a website and host it on AWS. So, what is going to be inside of the scope of this video and outside the scope of this video? So, I'll be discussing why a business or someone would want to host their website on the cloud, and how to create an S3 bucket, an EC2 instance, and an IAM role for this web server. Outside of the scope of this video is how to actually configure Nginx, domains, and SSL certificates, and how to attach them to the server. So, why would a business or person want to host their website on the cloud? So, the cloud consists of infrastructure already made by a company and distributed throughout the world that we remotely access. These resources are something that allow us to scale up really quickly our websites, our storage, and it helps connect these resources to their users quicker and more efficiently and more what I'm trying to get at is that if one server goes down, there's still other servers that'll come online and serve up the content. If for some reason your local server goes offline due to a natural disaster, or someone breaks in and turns off the computer, or a hacker DDoSes your website, you're out of luck. You can't really do too much about that since it's all locally stored. With the cloud, you're able to distribute your resources, and if something goes offline, a backup can kick in. It also makes it so that if your website is getting slammed by Christmas traffic, you'll be able to ask Amazon automatically for more resources, and they'll be able to provision that for you. In the case of a locally hosted website, you would need to have an IT person over there who comes in and puts in a new storage device, turns that on, configures it. They'll have to restart the server as well and limit accessibility even more. This simply isn't a problem with the way the AWS cloud is designed. So first we'll need to make our bucket, and for this I'm using S3. I'm using S3 as opposed to something more traditional for a web server like EFS, the Elastic File Service, because Amazon's simple storage service, it's quick and easy to set up. I can put in resources from my local machine easily onto the console, as opposed to EFS, which takes a little bit more work. An S3 bucket probably isn't the best for an actual server though, because it relies more on tags and metadata to organize your objects. It's more for object storage, as opposed to EFS, which more naturally mimics a file server that mimics an OS's file hierarchy, like Windows files or Linux files or Mac OS files. So for S3, we're going to create our bucket. It's going to be a general purpose bucket. It's going to be located in my local region. I'm going to name it Elijah's Test Web Server, and I'm going to disable ACLs. I don't want any access control list because I'm just going to be simply using it only for me So I'm going to be able to SSH uh, directly into um, the server, and the server is going to be able to, with an IAM role, access this bucket here. So I don't need an ACL to connect to it. Okay, block all public access, disable bucket versioning. I'm not too concerned about any of that really. Keys, encryption, those are important. So once you create that bucket, you'll be able to upload your files. I'm going to be uploading my index file for the Nginx server and a PNG that's referenced in my index file here. Okay. Once that's done, this is what it looks like. Next, we'll be going on to creating a role. This is important so that my EC2 instance, the actual server itself, will have permission to access my bucket I just made. So I'll go to roles, then create role. This role is going to be for an AWS service. EC2 is right there. Unfortunately, I'll be giving it full access to all buckets on this account. Usually you'd want to follow the concept of least privilege and assign it very specifically access to just this one bucket. However, on the console version of the IAM role creator, I wasn't able to fine tune the controls. Then you need to name the bucket, give it a short description, or you'll need to name the role and give it a description. This allows my EC2 instances to call S3 buckets. Then you'll create that, then launch an instance under EC2. Amazon's EC2 is basically a VM virtual machine. What that allows you to do is, from a huge selection of different OSs and pre-configured applications on those OSs, quickly launch a virtual machine with scalable resources and specific access controls to that server. From here, I'm going to select Debian as our OS for this files for the web server. Going to be using T3 micro resources because it's going to be a very small web server that's just handing over a static website. I don't need that many resources, and it's going to be cheaper that way in the long run. I'm going to create a security group. This is going to allow SSH traffic from my personal IP address. It's a web server, so I'm going to allow HTTP and HTTPS traffic from the internet. It's going to be auto-assigned a public IP address so that I can actually connect to the server from the internet. And I'm going to create a key pair. I'm going to use .pem so I can use the OpenSSH service, RSA key pair type, then create that. It's going to store onto my local machine. Then when I launch that instance, it's going to be assigned a public IP address by Amazon. That's something that Amazon owns. It's important to note that every time you launch, close, and launch again a EC2 instance, it's going to be assigned a new public IP address. Something for a web server that's not ideal because you want people to have consistent access to it. So on the left there, you'll go to Elastic IPs and assign an Elastic IP to this instance so that every time you launch it, it'll have the same one. Let's see. We'll assign this EC2 instance an IAM role, the one that we made earlier, so we can access our S3 bucket. Select the EC2 full bucket access role. Update that, restart the virtual machine. Then when we launch it, we'll go to the SSH client tab to be able to actually connect to it. And here Amazon auto creates a command for you to input into your PowerShell tool. It's important to navigate first to the folder that you created that you stored your key earlier, so it can actually reference that key and be able to actually access your server. From here, we SSH into our server. We'll make sure to update our OS. From here, we'll make sure that we have the latest version of AWS command line interface. Next, we'll have to install Nginx. Once we do that, the server automatically starts, and when we type in our public IP address for this EC2 instance, we'll be served up the default index page for Nginx. Success. I do want to actually use our S3 bucket that we made earlier, however, so we'll be inputting our own index page for our Nginx server. Next, we'll go down and download the index.html page and beginning.png image from our S3 bucket. Earlier, it creates a destination for the S3 bucket, so we'll input that for that specific bucket and reference the specific index.html and beginning.png objects and download it to the server's local storage. Then once we've downloaded those two objects, we'll move them over to Nginx's default location where it stores the HTML files, var/www/html. We'll move them there and restart the server, and voila, when we enter in the new IP address, then it brings us to the HTML page I made earlier as a test. So, there you have it. This has been Elijah from Elijah's IT Guide, telling you how to make a web server on AWS and why you'd want to actually do that. Have a good one.